Welcome everybody to 1 Million Cups St. Paul. My name's Lee George. I'm one of the organizers for this event, along with Paul Lampland from Grey Cloud Studio, and Greg Fowkes, our president, and Agency Nord here in St. Paul. Many of you have been here before. For those of you who have not, we do this every week. 2 startups get up and present. They have 6 minutes to give an overview of what they're up to, and then we get 20 minutes to give them feedback and connect them to other resources. And I tell people we are a challenging and friendly audience. That's our role, and so we're really community-oriented. This is more of a discussion and a conversation than anything else. I also tell the presenters it's okay to be vulnerable up here, because that's how we're going to be able to help you. So just so you know, they might not just show us the polished, shiny parts of what they're doing, but some of the things that they actually need assistance with. Today is a little unusual because we have 2 art startups in St. Paul, which is fantastic. We're hosting an event on Friday with Springboard for the Arts called Flourish. It's their resource fair. It's all around art and entrepreneurship. And so we looked for 2 presenters for today that was in the creative space. And so we're really excited to have Midway Murals and Can Wonderland here. And to start us off is going to be Jonathan from Midway Murals. Come on over. Thank you, sir.
Can you use this?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Jonathan Oppenheimer. As Lee said, I am the founder and lead artist and project leader for Midway Murals, which is a community engagement project that will bring a world-class public art exhibit and public art corridor to a 6-block stretch of Snelling Avenue, one of the busiest and most highly visible stretches of road in the entire state of Minnesota. We are going to transform this. We're going to transform this stretch of Snelling Avenue with 4 incredible murals. There'll be 4 artists, 4 walls, using 3 different art mediums. Over two months is when the murals will go up, and then there'll be one huge celebration in the heart of Hamlin Midway, which is where I live. I live just 1 block east of Snelling, north of University, and if any of you know that area, it really is the crossroads of St. Paul. It's when you get off of 94 and you go up towards the State Fair, and for a number of reasons, it gets about 30,000 vehicles a day, so it's highly visible, highly trafficked. The way that this project, that I dreamed up this project, having lived there and walking down Snelling, riding my bike, driving, I would go down and I would see these buildings. They kept getting tagged with graffiti, and they would get painted over, and then they would get tagged again, they'd get painted over, and they get tagged again. And then I would also talk to people in the neighborhood. I've been there 5 years now. I'd talk to people in the neighborhood about Snelling, and they would talk about it as if it was really drab and dreary and kind of down and out. It had nothing going for it, and yet I would see these businesses that seemed to be thriving. I would look in the windows, and I would go into some of them, and I would talk to the business owners, and they seemed to be doing just fine. Other than that, their buildings sometimes looked, a little bit shabby, as oftentimes people, are running small businesses, they do. But people would talk about sometimes in this disparaging way, talk about it as it's kind of a pit. And they also just didn't know the businesses. They lived a few blocks from there, but they didn't know any of the businesses. So I'm sitting there every day seeing this stuff and hearing things from the neighbors and say, how can we transform that? Well, I've always loved public art. I love the way in which it can engage the community. It can bring people together. It can also beautify a space, and it really can deter graffiti. People know public art. Generally murals, people won't tag them, once it goes up. So I thought, how can I do this? Well, originally I thought I'll just do 1 piece a year and we'll find the money for it. And then lo and behold, this Night Arts Challenge comes along, and the Knight Foundation says to St. Paul, we're gonna commit several $1 million over 3 years, and anyone can apply to do an art project. And the only criteria are that it's about St. Paul, it's either takes place or benefits St. Paul, it's related to the arts, and that you find matching funds. And that was it. You throw your name in the hat, and I did that. So I was just a guy off the street who had a vision. vision. But the vision was we're going to do 4 murals. We're going to transform this entire stretch in a very short period of time along this common theme of starting anew, this notion of renewal and rebirth, the changing face of St. Paul. But most importantly, it's going to be the artist's interpretation of immigrant stories. These are all the businesses where these murals will take place are all they're all businesses that are run by immigrants, Eritrean, Oromo, Ethiopian, Korean, Vietnamese immigrants who often don't feel connected or rooted in their communities, and there's this disconnect. So the goal, anyone can, we could take the money, we could do public art overnight, right? And that's all well and good, it would look better, but so much a part of this project is about community engagement. So we have 7 businesses, there might be a couple others that come on board. There will be listening sessions over the next several months in which the artists and I and the neighborhood will come together and talk about this, there'll be a set of questions guiding the discussions. So, what does home mean to you? Where do you come from? How do you identify? What is your culture and community? And what are your dreams and where are you going? And then we'll have a discussion, and that will help to the artist to develop a vision and a sketch for these murals. And they'll present those to a panel in about May, and June, it'll be approved, and then these projects will get developed, and they'll all go up in July and August. So it's very important that the neighborhood also feels a part of this, and so we're trying to, this idea, it's focused on immigrant business owners, but we also want the residents who don't necessarily own businesses, aren't necessarily immigrants, to also feel a part of that as well. So they're also providing their vision, but it's still very important that we retain the initial vision. So the last few months, I've just, I don't have any background in running a project of this magnitude. I don't have fundraising experience. I don't have, I'm a person who's very involved in my neighborhood and my community, doing outreach and engagement. But there's a lot to learn, and it's important that we have the right partners on board, the Hamlin Midway Coalition, our district council, as well as Twin Cities LISC, and there's we're talking to different Oromo youth groups, Wellstone International, that has a lot of international students. There's a number of different partners that we're bringing into the fold. And then creating a public art work group so that after these 4 murals go up, that in future years, that we're not only providing upkeep and maintenance of the murals, that we're commissioning new pieces. We're really creating this incredible arts corridor of different perspectives, different art mediums, but really high quality art that's a product of engaging the community in a really thoughtful way. So, I have a lot to learn, as I just said. The fundraising piece is huge. I have $60,000 to raise, so I was given a $25,000 grant, which is incredible. I have to match that to get those funds, and then I have another $35,000 to raise on top of that in the next several months. I'm not the most organized person. I'm highly committed, but I don't necessarily, I'm one of those guys, you walk into my office and things are everywhere, and that I always say I'm going to clean it, and it never happens. And then social media, I'm not a social media guy. I've tried since this project came about to say, I need to get my act together, so I'm trying to have a presence, but even, for this event, I tweeted out that 1 million cups is happening, but didn't, link it to the press release, for example, or, I'm not tweeting enough, I'm not posting enough. I need some help there. And then community outreach. I really want to knock on every door in this neighborhood. So, speaking of knocking on doors, so they want to come in. So it's important to me with the neighborhood that we're not only raising small donations by knocking on doors, but we're also asking them those same questions that are guiding the project, and we're also inviting them into listening sessions. And not everyone is online. Not everyone can be reached through Facebook or through email. So I need help there. So that's the project in a nutshell. Again, thank you for listening, and I look forward to your questions.
Now we get John, any questions you want, any feedback you want.
The artists that you have, do you have specific artists lined up, and are they people who are already muralists that have worked in the metropolitan area already?
Yeah, it was very, very important to me that I not only have professional muralists who had extensive background doing projects like this, but also that had very different perspectives, different backgrounds, were working in different mediums. So Lori Green is a neighborhood resident. She was really the inspiration for this. She's done mosaic work. She just did one recently at 180 degrees on the east side and has done stuff in Midtown Global Market and at our local rec center. Greta McLean is from Minneapolis, does incredible work, did a central identity project last year in Minneapolis that was just a phenomenal community engagement. She combines paint and mosaic. And then Yuya Negishi is a Japanese artist who came to the States a few years ago, and he has very heavily Japanese and Asian influenced art, but he's done several projects. And then the last one is a guy named Eric Matthias, who's part of Rogue Citizen, which is an art collective, and he's working all in spray paint. It was important that I had spray paint because this notion of graffiti is always one of, blight, but I felt like it was important to kind of flip that perception on its head and do really cool spray paint work. So they're all, different backgrounds, different perspectives, but had the real skill, and I knew that it was going to be really beautiful art regardless, that I could step out of the kind of artistic process and let them craft something and tell them to go big and be bold and really create something that everyone would say, wow.
I was hoping to hear a variety of styles that it doesn't become too blended with other works that have already been accomplished.
Yeah, and that was part of the vision. That's kind of when I was dreaming this up. It was like there's so art comes in so many different forms, as you all know, and can be beautiful in so many different ways. But that was really important to me, that it not all looked the same, but that there was something that was tying them all together, and it felt like it was really, this theme, that it was this exhibit, and that could evolve over time, that more pieces can go up, and that will also be diverse in terms of their perspective, in terms of the medium. Yeah.
So you have a total, you have 60,000 raised plus in addition to the 25 that you received from Knight?
That's correct. So my total budget that I gave tonight was 85. So I was hoping to get half of that. They gave me 25, which is awesome. Just left me with a bit of a gap. It wasn't just raise the matching funds, and that hits my total budget. So I have to raise the 25 to get their 25. But then to really do what I want to do, if I only raise the matching funds, I can either have Greta McLean work only in paint instead of mosaic, because the mosaic is very expensive, or what I'd more likely do is have Greta and Lori work together. They know each other, they've worked together in the past, and we would do 3 projects, and then a 4th would also be a combined effort. It's important that I not leave out anybody. It's also really important that I get the 4th done, and the reason that I don't see doing 3 as an option is because I promised these business owners and the community that these 4 would happen, and so I feel really, it's important to me that I make them all happen, and to really do them in the way that I envision, that we have to raise that total amount.
Where do you hope to raise that additional funds?
Yeah, so that's been really the big question, right? So you put forth a proposal to say, this is how I'm going to raise it, and then you start reaching out to foundations, and they say no to you, no to you, no to you, and all of a sudden you're revamping the plan. So the hope, I'm going big in terms of crowdfunding, and I think people typically would say, with a project of this size, given my background, maybe I should only try to raise $6,000 to $10,000. I think if we do it right, if you do your research on crowdfunding and how you really committed to it, and the video, as we talked about previously, is pretty awesome, but that alone's not going to sell it. If we're going to knock on every door in the neighborhood for small donations, try and raise about $20,000 that way. My hope is, there's about $20,000 in grant applications and money that's out there that I feel like I at least have a 50-50 chance of getting. So it's a combination of the city's STAR grant, along with MRAC funding, along with a Cura grant that some of you in the arts may know about, which is basically kind of made for this kind of project, neighborhood engagement in the arts. And then corporate donations. wealthy individuals, fundraisers, trying to scrape together that last $20,000. And I'm just talking to anyone and everyone to try and figure out how best to do that, how to sell the project in a meaningful way, how to make the right asks, how to explore different avenues.
So,
Yeah, Lee.
a lot of people who present and founders of the company, they're really good at a very small part of their actual business. And what they really need to do is build a team and find a co-founder. So what's your strategy for building a team around you or finding a co-partner to move this forward, to make up all these things that you're seeking expertise for?
Yeah, well, I really got going on the project, full bore after the new year, and it was important that I spend the first 2 months after being receiving this grant, really doing my homework, doing background, and so it's really been the last couple weeks that I've been trying to figure this out. And I say that only because it needs to happen now, but I actually really wanted to wait until after I'd spoken with you and talk through some of the stuff. Social media and community outreach I'm looking to put that out to the neighborhood and to say who has those particular skills. In particular, social media, maybe someone at Hamlin University reaching out to folks, to students. I'm only 32, but I really am technologically, I'm a bit behind the curve. I'm aware of that. I mean, I know how to do email and and I know how to tweet, but I don't necessarily tweet in the most effective manner. As far as outreach, I'm trying to build a team of hopefully like 50 people in the neighborhood who the idea is that each person would take 1 or 2 blocks and they'd knock on those doors, and in the process they would provide literature and they'd notify people of these listening sessions and our launch party, and they'd ask them for $20, $25, and the idea is if we raise $100 on every block in the neighborhood, that gets us to about $10,000, and then we raise the rest of it, through our networks. As far as the rest of the fundraising, I mean, that's all on me. I really feel good about where to go in terms of being the lead. I kind of have to be the person who does the ask, who writes the grants and so forth. So it's really just tapping into others' expertise and was meeting with the development director for NAMI Minnesota last night, and I'm meeting tomorrow morning with a guy who's run some really successful crowdfunding campaigns. And then as far as being organized, I don't know. You got any ideas? I don't know that there's going to be any one person. But yeah, the big part is the social media and the community outreach that I know I just have limited time and I need some folks to help out.
Your labor is your artists, right? For artists. 15 years ago, I went to Charlotte, North Carolina. I hired artists to make a picture from NASCAR, Jeff Gordon, Richard Petty, whatever. I paid $1,000. I sold the master print at $5,000, signed with the drivers and artists. I print 500 copies. YouTube, hire the artists and give the business owners the print. Master print is $10,000 on theogogo.com or Facebook or Kickstarter or whatever. You love it. And artists, ego. Oh my God, my pictures, in the wall, master print in the library. Print 1,000 copies, signed, 1 out of 500, whatever.
And if you did a Kickstarter, that could be one of the
Donate.
rewards.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Labor is free.
Yeah, the artists, the 4 artists who are doing the murals have all met several times together, and we're talking about doing some joint pieces where they create a stencil or they create original art together, and that's one of the rewards for the crowdfunding project, as well as signed prints of pictures of the final murals. And then as far as the work that they're doing, we have budgets, and it's very important to me that we pay the artists what they deserve to be paid. They're perpetually underpaid. So part of the reason that the budget is so big is that I'm paying them what they deserve to. But as far as asking them to do art beyond these big, huge projects on the sides of walls, I can't really ask that of them. But they are going to very much help out to create these smaller pieces that will be rewards for the crowdfunding project. So yeah, there's definitely ways to incorporate more art into the project. Thank you.
The second question is murals. Cover the murals with whatever, the paint or whatever. My background is food. I cover the food with food spray, just like a food photograph. You have covered the mural. The mural lasts 20 years or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a concern about public art is that people say, is it going to last? And also, will it get tagged with more graffiti, and how are you going to deal with that? And the answer is we use, we're going to power wash the walls. We're going to prime them as needed. We're going to use the highest quality paint and mosaic that's getting imported from Europe. And then for the paint murals, we're going to put a clear coating, the highest quality coating over top of it that we know if it does get tagged. In general, I've heard different numbers, but, I just heard recently people say there's a 90% chance, with public art that people will not tag it with graffiti, but if it does, it can just wash right off. And that part of this public art work group that I'm building of neighborhood people that's going to last beyond these 4 murals. The idea is that if it needs upkeep or maintenance, that we can be on that right away. That we have the money to bring the artists back to fix them if necessary. But that if we do this right, that like you said, we have 15, 20 years of a really beautiful piece.
Can you talk a little bit about the matrix of the money? Where does all this money go?
Where does it go? Oh yeah, so over $70,000 of the $84,000 budget is to artists' fees and labor. As I was just saying, artists are getting paid $50 an hour, and in a perfect world, I'd pay them $80 or $90 an hour. But that seemed to be reasonable and what they felt good about. And then the is that.
We've had this conversation internally about artists and what they're worth. So
Yeah. Tell me, does that seem reasonable to you, or does that seem too low? Right.
The question is what is the line of respect and feasibility? And we've been struggling a lot with that too, because I need to make sure for our people that they feel respected and honored, and because you mentioned hey, the labor's free. And that is true. Like they published some article that said for all these big federal art projects that all the money that went to fund them went to the management of them, and the artists received no money at all for 3 years worth of it. And it's just almost a given to artists.
The rent is paying the artists.
Right. But just typically, you get paid nothing for art, and so it's kind of trying to set a precedent of okay, we want to pay artists, but I don't know what is that number, and we've been trying to figure out too. Is that, like you're saying, is it a project based? Is it hourly?
Well, that's the plan, is to pay them half, half around early summer and then half upon completion. But in theory, I'll have all the money raised by then. That amount seemed decent to me, and it's better than what artists are getting paid, 90% of the time now anyway. And the truth of the matter is, when I put forth that budget, I think there were 2 reasons. I sort of get worried speaking about this on camera because I don't want anyone to come back. But I think, if people are connected, and I haven't asked this question, I think I was a bit sheepish to do so, is to say, well, why did, when I put forth my budget of $85,000, why was I only given $25,000? And I think part of it may have been, I don't want to speak for the Knight Foundation, who is incredible. I mean, I'm eternally grateful to them for giving me this opportunity. Was, he's new to this, he's never done it before, so maybe that raising that seems a bit high. I don't know if any of that was, this number seems a bit high based on the budget. In terms of an hourly rate, I mean, they're estimating, right? If you're doing a project that takes a month, you're giving me an estimate of how many hours it's going to take, and then you're agreeing to that number. Only a few thousand. I'm not paying myself anything. It's it's a labor of love. I mean, this to me, if it gets done, is worth every hour that I put in. But I do want some training in facilitation techniques and project implementation, and then I do want to have several $1,000s for a really awesome celebration that's really brings thousands of people together, and there's awesome music, and there's incredible live art, and there's an awesome unveiling ceremony, and there's beautiful, bronze plaques that tell the stories of the murals on each of them, and that everyone gets free food, and that it's just, so I think that's important at the end of the day. So, yeah.
My only comment would be when seeking or looking at compensation for artists. I mean, you can look to photographers and designers and all sorts of other people who constantly put in bids for work. And I mean, the artists like that are going to design your pieces. I think you'll explain that more in a little bit. But I mean, they can put in a bid for how much they think their time is worth and how much the materials are going to cost, and then you, as the person with the money, can decide whether or not it's worth it, and you can negotiate and have a conversation. That's how all contracts work. Or if you have someone come in and do a kitchen remodel in your house, they're going to bid for that, and you're going to decide, do they have the talent and the skill, and are they worth this much? It's the same. To me, it's the same with artists. But I don't think artists oftentimes present themselves that way, or they're not trained to, or don't know how to, or the culture around it is not set up that way. We just say, give this much, take it or leave it, and that's it.
Yeah, and what was nice about this is when I was approaching them, I was saying, okay, I'm writing a full proposal, and I can ask for anything I want, right? So you tell me what you're worth. And actually, with one of the artists, I said, no, I'm upping the budget because you deserve more than that. But I was saying, what is it? You give me a number of what you think you're worth, and we'll just go with that. And like I said, I wanted to bring them in line with each other. But that was the nice thing about this is I didn't have a budget to start. It was you tell me what it's going to cost, and then that's what I'm going to ask for. And now, given what I received, now I'm going to make that happen. Did you have a question? Okay.
But it's not necessarily, you say hourly, but really wouldn't each be, isn't that just kind of like a data point so that you would have it kind of a fixed cost for each of the four, and then kind of use that other figure to be able to try to see if that's reasonable?
It is. I mean, it was an estimation of how long it'll take based on the size of the piece that they were doing. How many hours is it going to take? And when you're writing a budget, you're just saying this many hours at this price. I mean, that's where I'm coming up with that number. But yeah, it could end up taking one of them, 3 or 4 days more, 3 or 4 days less. And I don't know what the ethics are behind at the end of the day. I mean, I'm not going to be monitoring every last hour. We've agreed on a price, and that's what I'm going to pay. If it ends up taking them 2 weeks longer than they asked and they say, I need more money, well, I guess we have that conversation at the time. But it's pretty clear what we've agreed to. Yeah. Yeah.
Jonathan, thank you. Our last question, always to presenters, is now after this conversation, what moving forward in this community do for you?
I think just take the time the rest of today, and if something pops into your head, to contact me, to be as highly critical as can be. I can accept it to say, you really better watch out, do this, or this is something that occurred to me, or this is someone that you should talk to, or this is a project that you should check out that they've done really well that kind of is similar to what you're doing, and throw that out there to me, and really to spread the word to every last person you know. As I tell people, yeah, the money's great, but if you can find people to donate when we do our crowdfunding, but more than that is I just want everyone in the Twin Cities to know about this, because I just think that's what it's about, is bringing people together. And if you guys are all at the celebration around Labor Day, then I'll be a happy person, because it'll mean we've done it.
Nice. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, man. So is this mic for?
Yeah, so the mic, it does not amplify the
Because
noise.
I'm like, I don't think I need that.
But we throw this up on YouTube, so it helps us capture your
Okay.
voice. So it should
All right.
be on and everything.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I don't know if that registers good enough. My name's Chris. I'm a public teacher by day and like an arts person at night. Rob is one of the partners of Can. He's going to be answering questions too after this little 6-minute dealio. Oh, I pushed the emergency button. Okay. So, anyone familiar with the soap factory here? Anyone? Yay! All right. Soap Factory is a nonprofit art gallery I volunteered at a lot when I first moved to town. It was awesome. It was like an abandoned building. It was totally crappy and run down. You could do whatever you wanted. It was perfect. I just devoted a lot of my time there and energy. And it was just a playground for art. It was wonderful. It was very broke. you'd volunteer there, and like every 2 years they do a volunteer biennial where they'd like let you do something for their show. And on the second time I did that, I wanted to do an installation piece that was a haunted house in the basement of it, because the basement of the haunted house of Soap Factory was just legitimately scary. There's no power. It was like its own ecosystem. It was very freaky, and just going down there would make you scared. So I thought, it'd be great. I'll make people go down there and I'll scare them. And we did this, me and several friends. We built out a haunted house down there, and a couple days before we were going to open it up for the opening, the fire marshal, just dumb luck, bad luck, had to go down and look at the basement for something completely nothing to do with us, and they saw what we were doing down there, and he's like, there's no way you're building this haunted house down here. I was like, no, because we had like spent money and everything, and it sucked, so we couldn't build our haunted house. But we devoted to it, and the next year we built our haunted house, and it ended up being a screaming success. And we just gave the haunted house to the Soap Factory as we were like, we will run it for you, but you make the profit. So you can have that. So the Soap Factory, well, I'm probably getting ahead of myself. Okay, so I don't know, I can't really see very well, but it turned into the haunted basement. The haunted basement's now like on its like, I don't know, 7th, 8th year. This was in the New York Times this year. It's going to be a big project. This year, I believe they made $500,000 in a month. Bam, right? So now, this ragtag arts organization has health insurance for their employees, right? That's fucking awesome, and it's rare. Around the same time, the Walker Arts Center has been doing their art-based miniature golf course. I took part in it in 2008. This was my hole that I did with some friends. And you know, we're still doing the haunted basement at this time. Now we're doing this mini golf thing, and we're looking at like, you know, the Walker paid us like $3,000 to get the artists together to fabricate this mini golf hole, and we built it. And like while we're sitting there and we're building it, we've been working on it for weeks, and there's all these other guys that are building it, and we're like, man, you know, because pretty soon the Walker's going to turn this on, and people are going to like go through these holes, and the Walker's going to charge all this money for it. It's like, why don't we just get us together, go to a park someplace and do the same thing and then make the money, you know? And then like I was trying to get people to do that, and everyone was like, nah. But okay, so the basic line, I come from I'm a public school teacher, and my wife's a grant writer, so we're always stuck with this thing about I'm always trying to drum up grant money for my classroom to do extra stuff. I'm always like trying to drum up money for art projects, and it's like being strapped to the yoke of granting sucks for nonprofits. It's a huge time drain, right? So this is the idea. Like, don't hold a bake sale, build a bakery. Build something that generates money that supports the cause you're trying to support. Rather than doing it like half-assed on both sides, do one and just filter the money in there and support that guy, right? So we built Can Wonderland, and this is okay, so what is it? Okay, it's a for-profit. This is not a non-profit. This is a for-profit arts-based thing. We're a public benefit corporation. This is brand new as of January 2. It means that we're basically a corporation with a soul. Revolutionary, right? We actually have a social mission that we must adhere to. So what that is for us is to be an economic engine for the arts. That's what we're going to do. We're going to suck money in and spit it out the back to fund people. Instead of them having, we're going to be our own generator. We're in an old can factory. That's kind of important to know. It's a beautiful factory. We're doing an 18-hole mini golf, arts-based miniature golf course. We're going to have a restaurant and a bar. We're going to have several multi-purpose spaces that can be curated for all sorts of different kinds of entertainments. And this was made possible in part by a $350,000 startup from Art Place America. This, I don't know why it's not very bright, but I don't know if you guys have seen this building. It's on Pryor. It's by that big Menards on Pryor. It's just like 3 big doors down. It's 500,000 square feet. It was at one point the biggest can factory in America. This is our space. This is one angle of it, and this is the other angle. You can't see anything here, but whatever. It's a building. It's an empty factory. We're going to build it into something cool. So this is what the architecture rendering is of that exact same spot. You can see, I don't know, it's kind of hard to make out here, but this area is the mini golf course. I know it looks very flat and two-dimensional, but this is just where the footprints go. We were encouraging people. We got ceiling space of 20 feet, so we're really trying to push people's height, climbing up the walls, whatever. We're having a big water feature. This little thing right here is a fountain, hard to tell. This is a bar. On the other side is the restaurant. This big yellow zone is a boardwalk. And this area is you're kind of standing on the stage. This is like if you're walking into the space, you're not in the space yet. This is like you're basically standing where the bathrooms are, looking into the space, walking into the space, mini golf, concessions, and that's the boardwalk where we have a beer garden and a lot of vintage amusements and areas for people to like strolling art, small stages, intimate art exchanges. So that's the nickel tour of what we're doing. I guess I think we'll open up for questions.
Do you have a beer vendor interested in this when the raffle office?
Well, I mean, there's well, Rob is going to, Rob's actually our beer baron.
Yeah, so it's going to be a full liquor bar as long as licensing permits that. We have to do a full restaurant build out in order for that to take place. But yeah, we're definitely. I'm a commercial broker by day, and I do a lot of restaurant and bar representation as well as brewery representation. So I'm very connected with the craft beer movement. A lot of my clients are, several of the breweries that are popping up last year, this year, and next year. So I have great relationships with them. They'll definitely be on our tap list. And we're also going to definitely reach out to our neighborhood. The neighborhood that we're in, Hamlin Midway neighborhood, it's in the Creative Enterprise Zone. Right now there's 3 breweries, Bang Brewery, Burning Brothers, and Urban Growler. And there's 2 more on the way, so we'll definitely reach out to those local breweries to serve us.
So tell us how, you've obviously got multiple things going on here revolving around what the RRP is about. Tell us how that all works together, and how the artists make it, and how you support them, and just tell us a little about that.
Well, I think we're modeling a lot after City Museum in St. Louis, also Coney Island, the original turn-of-the-century Coney Island Steeplechase Park specifically, where basically when you have an amusement park that we think of now, like these giant, huge rides and everything, it used to be very local, very craft, very like, the carpenter and the electrician and then the idea guy, we're all going to get together and we're going to build a goofy little ride, and we're going to set up on the beach and we're going to charge a nickel. And people are going to be like, hey, I want that experience. But you can't have that experience unless you pay me a nickel. So they pay you nickels, and you collect your nickels, and then like maybe you have enough money to build another ride. And then another ride, and if you get 6 rides, you put a fence around it, you got an amusement park. And all that is taking local artisans, combining forces to build an experience that people want to charge a nickel for. So that's what we're doing. Mini golf is an experience. It's an art-based experience, and there's actually many different things like mini golf. If you think about like Coney Island, that are experiential and arts-based that you can charge a nickel for. So we're just going to try to do all those.
And the artists can sell their wares, etc.
Right, and like maybe even partnerships where we can go into business with the artists. That's kind of like, that's kind of a dream in the future. I don't know if it will, I don't know how it will work out, but I would love for it to be a partnership where, we can provide space and the startup financing, and they can build their thing, and then we can split the money down the long way, because how do artists retire? Where does the money come from for artists to live? So where's the passive income revenue streams for artists? So if they're actually able to build something that has a longevity, that can last 5 years, like you build a little ride, and every time a nickel comes in, you get 2 pennies and I get 2 pennies. then that ride might go for 5 years. You know, so you get money for 5 years off that one piece of art.
That was kind of where I was going with the question about beer vendors, craft beer people, because there is a culture that's around, that's a supportive culture, and I didn't want to divert from the real concept, which is to try to have the artists be able to create a venue that they'd be able to do the Can Wonderland, the mini golf thing, and that they wouldn't be taken over necessarily by the restaurateurs or craft food people, but that there's this kind of partnership. Would the mini golf necessarily, since that's your main project, would it necessarily incorporate other kinds of art concepts or ideas, or would it be mostly this?
Well, I'm gonna take a stab at talking a little bit more about the bar and the restaurant. So, while mini golf is one of the main attractions that is going to generate headlines, the reality is that the food and beverage side is the highest revenue generator, and so having that revenue stream allows us to be profitable, which allows us to support more of these artist endeavors that we want to take on and support arts. So, this could probably live on its own, just the mini golf, but we're trying to create kind of an urban carnival experience where people can come in and stay for 2 to 4 hours instead of just ripping through a game of mini golf in an hour. We want them to stay for a few hours, and again. The only thing better than playing mini golf is mini golf with a couple of libations. Did that answer your question, or?
Yeah, I understand, and that's makes the whole project more robust.
Right.
Your target market is what? Boomers?
Yeah, it's a great question, and a lot of people will try and answer that question this way, and when I hear from people that we've talked to, they're usually not correct in this, but we really believe that this is an accurate statement, that the entire metro is our market, because when you think about mini golf, it's something that you can play as a 5-year-old to 95, and there's very few people that you're going to run into that will tell you, I just hate mini golf and I would never play mini golf. It's pretty universal, and it's just a fun experience. So we really do believe that the entire metro is our market, but we also acknowledge that there's a core market. So within that, it's going to be families with small children, kind of 8 to 18. It's going to be the millennials, 20 and 30-year-olds, and then tourists.
The problem is my family is 2 kids, 5 and 7, 8. Love mini golf. However, 1 hour, and Dad, I'm bored. Sorry, I have no activities. Leave. I spent $20. Not $100. I need activity for the family in your place.
Yeah. So hopefully you'll come and you'll grab some pizza. One of the other things we haven't talked about is we're also trying to do an old soda fountain, so a vintage soda fountain that you'll have your phosphates, egg creams. So for you remember those at the corner drugstore. Your children, probably don't have any real recollection or experience with that, but for you it's pretty nostalgic. So we're hoping that you get as excited to introduce Johnny and Susie to something that you loved as a kid, and they're going to be excited that they're drinking some exotic drink that tastes really great, and you're excited about it, and then you're hopefully going to grab some pizza. You're going to play some mini golf, But then beyond that, then you're going to stroll down the boardwalk, and you're going to see some games that you haven't seen since the 50s, 60s, 30s, 40s, and then also new games that we're having artists invent. We've got this great idea that we've seen with another group where they take golf balls and put them in a pneumatic cannon, and you can smash plates, or you can, it's a firing range with golf balls, and it's just amazingly fun and exciting. So there's going to be all kinds of amusements. There's going to be magicians sometimes strolling down the boardwalk to entertain you. There'll be a guy in his guitar. And that's the other thing is this will never be the same experience twice, because our programming is going to be so unique and different on a daily basis.
My thought is the kids bring the adults, and for example, the chef served gluten-free pasta. The sister would bring the whole family, 10 people, not one.
Yeah, our mission really is that this place, because there's a lot of family entertainment centers out there that's 95% plastic and neon lights and obnoxious noise, and the kids have a blast, but the parents want to shoot themselves. This is a place that we hope when the family walks out that the parents have had as much fun as the kids. Yeah.
Do you have an idea of how many people you need on through?
Yeah, it's that's one of the toughest things is trying to stay conservative, but also be realistic in how to project those numbers, being a startup and being such a unique startup. What we've done is taken a look at the Walker Artists mini golf numbers from their 2008, and I believe they had 78,000 people through less than 3 months. So we're trying to use that number and note that that was a kind of an outdoor event and a limited time, so people were going to rush to get there before it was over. So I think we're being very conservative to say we're expecting 50,000 people the first year, which is 200 people a day. We think that's very very doable, and quite honestly, we think we'll probably smash that. But for budget purposes, we want to be pleasantly surprised, and we're counting on 50,000.
Place is seasonal?
No, year-round, open 310 days a year. We are going to be off Mondays, but we'll take that and use that as an opportunity. If somebody wants to rent out the facility, they can rent that out. But yeah, Jonathan.
Yeah, so I just throw some of the same questions that you had for me back at you. And one of them, you talked about the Public Benefit Corporation being a business with a soul. So I'd be interested in hearing you talk a little bit more about what that means to you. And then also in terms of fundraising, so you still have a bit of money left to raise, right? You didn't talk about that.
Okay. The corporation with the soul bit is just, of course, it's so needed. I mean, I'm very frustrated with corporate America, and it's like, why do they make no good decisions? And it's like, so it's great to have this option in Minnesota this year. It's great that we're at a point where we could step forward into it. It's just kind of like a good model. I wish all corporations were just that model, that they had to have some kind of social benefit for their existence. But it's not true. It's just to stakeholders. So it's an eloquent way to start a business. It's not like a great way. You don't get a whole bunch of benefits from the nonprofit side. We don't get tax exemptions or anything like that. So there's not a giant benefit. It's just kind of like a point to say, we're not just doing this straight for money.
But even beyond that, in terms of paying artists, because you guys seem to look at each other and that you've had the discussions before, where do those lead in terms of what you think is fair and how you treat employees and artists?
Well, it's a huge expense. It's a huge expense on your bottom line for how much these people are worth. And they're like you said, you want to pay them 50, you want to pay them 90. And we're going, hey man, what can, but those numbers, it gets astronomical pretty soon, pretty quickly. And then you have to ask yourself, okay, well, how much is enough to honor them? It's like this weird line you have to balance. I mean, I can tell you that artisan-based craft houses in town like Blue Rhino, Atomic Props, who hire absolute artisans, working artists, but they're working for means that are like, hired guns. But if you look at Blue Rhino stuff, international undisputed heavyweight champs of awesome, right? And the guys that are working that are craft geniuses. They're getting about $35 an hour. If that's a baseline for you. I mean, that's an internationally reputed, like, rock stars, $35 an hour.
Yeah, and so we agree that we want to be able to pay artists what they feel is fair and what they're worth. The reality is this is a startup, so we're tapping the community and saying, help us get this off the ground. And once we're off the ground and revenue generating, that's when the real opportunities come. But in the meantime, we're asking, and we're working for free. So we don't want them to work for free, but we need a little bit of help just to get this plane off the ground. And then once it's flying, again, that's when the opportunities will come forever. As far as financing goes, we have several sources identified that we're going to go after. We were lucky enough to have some seed capital through Art Place America. We started with a $350,000 grant as well as a $35,000 grant from the St. Paul Foundation. So that's some really generous seed capital to build momentum. We have some private equity that we'll be putting into the deal, and then we'll look to commercial bank loans, SBA financing for a portion of it. We'll also apply for St. Paul neighborhood star funds. There's some micro loan opportunities with some of the neighborhood development corps. We are going to go the crowdfunding route as well as a membership model. One of the most successful ones is Northbound Smokehouse and Brew Pub, where they sold $1,000 Beer for Life memberships, and they sold 250 in a couple of months, and they raised $250,000, which has enabled them to put their down payment to get $1 million bank loan, I believe. So that's a model. We want this as much as it's going to be what we feel is a national treasure, an icon of St. Paul. We also want it to be a neighborhood staple, somewhere where the neighborhood feels like they can come multiple times per week and feel comfortable. So we want to reach out to that community and give some benefit to them. Hopefully they'll support us and find value in that.
What's the membership fee?
We haven't gone down that road yet, but in total, we're looking to raise, depending on all the build out that we need to do, somewhere around 1.1 million is what we're looking to raise.
What's the, I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but what's the reason why you didn't pursue a nonprofit instead you went for a corporation?
Well, the easiest answer is if we were to start a nonprofit, we could put a board together in 3 years. They could kick us off of the board, and everything that we worked for, we no longer have any part in. So that's one of the big deterrents. And then also, once you start making so much money, there's all kinds of restrictions on what you can do, and the public benefit corp model just made absolute sense for us. Because we had a social mission before we went in that we were going to adhere to. Now we're just publicly stating it and having to adhere to it.
One question that 1 Million Cups likes to always ask is, how can we help you?
Yeah, get out your checkbook and become founding members. No, it's a great question. Really, I guess any feedback that you have on how this could be more of we really want this to be a national treasure. So we want this to be when people Google top 10 things to do in the Twin Cities, we want this in the top 10. And just to give some perspective, Science Museum, based on their square footage and their visitors, just at 50,000 people per year, based on our 19,000 square foot footprint, we'll have more people per square foot than Science Museum, Walker Art Center, Minneapolis Institute of Arts. So, and we anticipate growing much further beyond that 50,000. We have a 500,000 square foot building that we can continually grow into. So I guess, feedback on how we can accomplish that.